Now, that's most of the problems that are in those newspapers I just mentioned to you, is now, what's the greatest worry in the world? What is it? Friends, you tell me.
Overpopulation.
One, overpopulation is a reason for there being less for the survivors. Why? Because they eat up everything. They use up all the energy. So to have sustainability, then we have to measure up to the population's needs, and as that increases, our chances for our future are not going to be as good if we fail to do this. What's the other problem? The one that bugs everybody, and that's why they hold big meetings at the East-West Center and in the United Nations and all over the world. What? Global warming, right? Okay. I had to ask a physicist and an astronomer why global warming was such a hazard. Is there a physicist and an astronomer in the room? Raise your hands. Anybody? Okay. Let's leave the Kumulipo for a while and go to the subject that we're supposed to be talking about with reference to how we see the creation in this sacred chant, which was called the chant which we give to the chiefs when they are born around that time. We chant for them. Whereas in Captain Cook's case, we chanted for him to adopt him as an aumakua, therefore an ancestor, into the Hawaiian family. That's what we did in Kalakikua, believe it or not. What is tragic about global warming? Okay, consider. Let's say okay, this is how he explained it to me. If you take all the ice and all of it melts, what do you have left? Water. Okay, then what happens to the water? It'll evaporate how? The sun will evaporate it. And after all the water evaporates, then what? It's a desert. Then, my question was, well, how come the ocean keeps on going and the ice is up there and this doesn't dry up? Is it that those waters are creating these waters? Is it? Is the water in the ocean coming from the glaciers, from the ice? Is it? You say yes. Probably. That if the glaciers are all melted, we'll have, from the meltdown, then no more water on the planet. And as the water evaporates, eventually there's nothing but desert. Is that the only thing confronting us to worry about in our future? Is it the only thing that we have to worry about? Besides overpopulation, global warming, anything else? I beg your pardon?
Yeah. Pollution.
Pollution. Okay. Pollution of the air. And that's what we imbibe through the air goes into our lungs and it's poisoning us. So we need purer air, is that what you're saying? Not just air, but air we can breathe that isn't full of junk bacteria. That's what TV is. Junk bacteria. Junk fungi. But I want to remind you what the Kumulipo is telling you. They have as much right to be where they are, if they're living in you or outside of you. The chemicals and the creatures have as much right to inhabit the universe as you do. And if they survive you, that's because you're the weaker species. Is that right? Okay, that's Darwin. That's Darwin's message early on. He said that. Now, he missed something though, didn't he, on the way? That Gregor Mendel discovered. What did Gregor Mendel discover? The gene. How did Gregor Mendel discover that?
Peas.
I beg your pardon?
Some peas.
Peas. What about the peas?
Hereditary functions of peas.
Hereditary functions of peas. Boy, you're way beyond me. Why don't you come up here?
No,
I'm older than you. Well, some of the earliest things I read about with respect to Mendel's work was he observed how plants' leaves intersect or spiral in such a way that the leaves below get light from the sun, and therefore they live. And if those spaces are not conducive to light coming down to the plant, then life ends. So plants need air and they need light. All right, so let me ask you. I ask my classes this, freshman, sophomore, and they come to school. Sharp, bright students. But in most cases, they never knew why the earth, according to the Hawaiians, is a placenta. Okay? Let's go back to Hawaiian thought, not necessarily in Kumulipo, because this thought has to be already in the language. What is the difference in Hawaiian language between the placenta and the womb? Can you tell me? Class? I have students out there, I know I do. What do we call the womb in Hawaiian? Not honua, it's placenta. See? What? Oh, that's the placenta too. But the eve is the womb. Have you heard of eke? What is an eke? Class? What is the eke? It's your purse. You see Wahinis carrying the eke around. On the outside, they carry that eke and they put their money in it. Or whatever they need for the day is in your eke. But you're carrying around in your body the eke, which is the womb. Now, inside of that is the honua. When does it form? I found my students didn't know they had their own placenta every time a child is born. Each child comes out with its own honua. So you have to figure out how is the earth a placenta if things are growing in the placenta? What is in the earth that causes growth? All right. How do you have to grow plants to eat? What do you put? Seeds as well, yeah? Right. Water has to go, and then the seeds have to get that and then come up. Right? That's when you have seeds and you plant them. That's why we say the earth is the placenta, because the placenta has water with the soil. It has the nutrients for the plants to grow, so it's the honua. But a human child born live, how is the placenta to that child, embryo? The embryo is the aka.
It's carrying everything it needs to sustain itself.
Correct. What about the liquid? What's inside the placenta that has to be released first, and who does it, and when does it happen?
It's the blood.
No, you have water that is inside the placenta that is released only when the infant is able to break through. That's the water that comes out, right? But there's water that the mother fluids in the endometrial layer, right? Okay, class, we're people, or all of you who came this morning. Fundamentally, each one of us has our own placenta when we come. It's the bag in which we come and come out of that becomes what? The ieve. Okay, what do the Hawaiians do with that? They bury it where? Yes, some do. So it depends with certain families where they take that yerba and where they take the pico when it drops off, and they're going to put it somewhere. Now, I could care. If you talk to, I don't know how many different families, not all families will do the same thing. I have cousins on Molokai. When that happens, they go plant it in the ground and they plant a coconut over it. Coconut tree, all right, is going to come from that placenta of that child. And that tree will be nurtured to give coconuts. Another family will go and put it under the banana tree and plant it over there. And then they have bananas forever. Over here on the Big Island, do you know what these Big Islanders did? They would go up central part of the island and go put it in the pico stones all over the place and draw a circle around and put a little puka and put that pico there. What happens to it? Disintegrates, or something goes and eats it, which is why they say in old Hawaii, never plant, never put your pico stump where the rats will get at it. They don't want that. However, the Big Island has the most pico circles of any island in the chain is over on this island. You wonder why. Well, that's an interesting story too, but we won't go over there. I'm just trying to show you how much is inside the thought pattern of the kahunas who created this chant a long time ago. Is they're amassing their knowledge of life in the waters and how that became life living forms in the air, and how you transfer the breathing apparatus of things that stay breathing in the water to become then these other things that grow on the earth. So let's take a look at the end of that chant. In the epilogue, it will tell you that what was then growing on the earth pushed up the sky, so that eventually, as the plants grew up, they created the forest, but life continued in the earth, where the skeleton now goes on the inside, away, hemodis. So this time, the skeleton is not on the outside, the skeleton is on the inside. And let's put up all of these interesting fish and their variations. Okay, now this is the wrasse. Like the first fish you see is a wrasse. What's interesting about the wrasse is when it's first born, it's a male. It will live its life as a male and impregnate all the other females, and they have eggs. Then it will switch and become female, and the other males will impregnate it, and it will hunt out. And then that's the life of the wrasse. It's both sexes. However, it's the principal fish in chant 2. This is a spotted wrasse. What's this one? Pakuikui, right. And what about it? If you grab it by the tail, what's going to happen to you? Cut your hand. It's a surgeon fish. What about this one? The puikauila. Is he friendly? Now be careful when you go out on the reef. And this thing, these eels get a hold of you. And when the high tide comes in, your nose goes under the water. This is what happened to a university student. When they went to Molokai to do their, learning Hawaiian and culture, this and that. That's what happened to him. He went out on the reef looking for octopus, and the octopus grabbed his foot and held him down. John Hoi. This is another creature. Be careful when he comes and holds you. The kuna is one freshwater eel. He's another surgeon fish. is the umawale. So don't grab it at night. At night you watch. This is a lizard fish. In other words, all these species come out. But side by side are also the plants that you can identify by the type of stems. So your fungus and your algae, they don't blossom, they don't have really roots, and they don't have flowers. But when the plant stems come, they're either jointed stems like the kava. This is a form of the god Kane, also the god Kanaloa. Anything like this is an extension of the worm, the eel. It's the same idea that we have, that he's continually becoming a greater worm. More facile, snake, same thing. Toke, enuhe, those are all related to the concept of the eel. Kuna and kumuhe and all those things are ku forms. So when you go coconut tree, wherever the coconut is of value to the Amakua Kinola, we call it of the family, those people will be very careful with caterpillars, moths, eels, worms, enuhe, and then you'll see them with their strongholds in Ka'u, Puna, and then in Kauai High, and then on Molokai, are Kumuhea people. Just as this, when you start getting dicotyledons rather than monocots, which are single stems like bananas, hala, papaya, what else? Taro, all those monocot stems. Those are all belonging within the same compass of four that you see in the sky, are relegated to ku, one, two, lono, 3 kane, 4 kanalo in the south. The hau tree over here, I said lono no koloyamoku was the bird form, which was the red stone at Kumukahi. That's his plant. The hau is also lono. Everything that vines is lono. Then when you get dicotyledons and you watch them grow, it's a sandalwood, the iliahi. Connected also the ali'i, then you'll notice two leaves come out, and then the leguminosis like that, kiavis like that. They send out 2 bud leaves, and then you get woody stems. And until that happens, you don't have any woody stems in chance 1 and 2 until that happens. Got to go algae first, then the ferns, and then these jointed stems like the cane, tucane, and then dicotyledons come and woody stems. Then you have the ku image become essential with the lehua tree. Let me talk about that now. But when Chentu ends, this little wrasse, the spotted wrasse, the ohule, the opule wrasse means what? When you pull it, you pray. So the spots are all pule for those little spotted parts of reef life, when they're fish or shells. Anyway, I missed something. Nevertheless, what the chant says is these people, at the head of which are the Palawa, they're bearing the sperm whale tooth emblem which the chiefs wear around their neck. Okay. If you're taking that from other than the sperm whale, then they leave the whole tooth like that, like it is with the nai'a, or the humpback. And that's the opu. And what's the difference? Those who wear the palawa are the ones where you see the human hair strung through on both sides of the car with whale tooth pendant hanging down. All right. In the old days, the Hawaiians used to also make those palawa, the lei, with the dog's tooth and hanging around the children's neck to fend off evil spirits. or any kind of danger from outside influence, which is the same thing when the chiefs wear that. However, for the Oahu chiefs, who were not from Maui, Hawaii, they wear the other one, the uncarved whale tooth. And that's Kalani'opu'u's name, because his mother's side was from the Opu'u-wearing whale tooth pendant chiefs of Oahu. Whereas the other one, which is the whale tooth carved, like the tongue of the god, when it's lapping off the human sacrifices on the heiau, that power is for those chiefs who descended from that group, the Palawa. Now, that's only 2 chants now. In other words, what comes later are winged creatures, and they're born from the egg. Once the egg comes, then there are 2 directions in which that egg goes. One is to egg-bearing wing flight animals, birds, insects first, then birds, and then the other side is reptilian, lizards, frogs, they belong over there, reptiles, the mo group. And then you'll see that later. But I think, what, I talked too much already. Almost have to stop. However, with each epilogue, you'll see that some group that came primarily from this background have their chiefs, and they move on. Then in the second one, with the fish are, they follow the sperm whale when they leave home, and they follow in their wake, and the opule wrasse goes. Same thing when you have the butterflies and the birds. They're divided in such a way that the people who descend from those bird ancestors also continue their progeny and their lines. And then the animals, they're all single then. The pig comes, the dog, the rat, and then the bat, and then man in the 8th chant comes with the dawn, and from then on, it's humans. So I'll just briefly end this by saying this. Now, this has nothing to do with the subject for which you came. It has to go with my perspective on this. In other words, this is what attracted me. I know we're going to always have problems with sustainability and all these negative things, but we have to trust our children. That's why it's important to train children, to know how children need us to take care of them, give them the love, give them the support, and in school to understand them. Why is that important? Because that's the next generations. Those are the ones that are going to be having to face things like global warming, pollution. They're going to have to arm themselves with knowledge, aren't they? Does it matter if they're Hawaiian or not? Of course not. We can't think like that when we're educators. You have to think persons and their capabilities all the time. You know, you're not the empress or the emperor. So this is what attracted me, right? This guy. You know why? Because his name is so close in Hawaii to this guy. Now remember when the Carl was born, it was an uku, ko'ako'a. What does it tell you about how many legs it has or how many sides to the polygon? If it's an uku, is it an insect or is it related to the crabs and the spiders? It's an arachnid, correct? Spiders are related to what other things in the sea? Crabs, lobsters, what else? They've got 8 legs, not 6. 6-legged creatures are insectivora. insects. So that led me to consider the spider, because the spider is the basis of the web through which the stars go. It's an Kiala Akikuku, we say. The pathway of the spider are the paths of the fixed stars, and it makes a big net that goes across the sky in which the stars stay. That idea is all over the place. So I began looking. What happened was, it took me to the wings of birds and the words used to beat the tapa. It took me to all the signs we use when we make the tattoos, when we weave, in weaving. It took me to all those things. So I began to look at the one word that kept creeping up, and you'll see it in the chant, you go through, every time there's a pe'a. Is it octopus first? In chant 1. Then when the pe'a comes to the fish, what is it? It's a bat ray, a ray fish. Correct? Then when it comes back again, pe'a, what is it? It's the bat. Because the bat is the god who comes at the time of birth. Why does he do that? Why do the Hawaiians venerate the bat? The same thing in Tonga. Because the bat flies, what is in its head? Sonar? Okay, how does it hold its young? The mother holds the baby to her what? Body and flies? Okay, when she's going to bring food or anything and she flies out, what time does she do that? In the evening or the morning? Evening. Okay. Now, seasonally, when the bats are no longer moving around, how are they hanging? Upside down. Okay? Then go back to chant 1. Okay, ikahui, that is when you're going to invert what? The lani. Then that is the chief. When is that? Vilakahonua. Okay, kahuli, vilakahonua. The placenta pains, not just heat. Otherwise it's heat, motion, the sky, all that. But if you take it then to birth, then the meaning is like that. That in the time where the baby has to put his head down to be delivered, then he's upside down. Kahuli, lole, he's going to come inside out. And he's going to leave what? The inside of his placenta outside. Now then, when you consider that, so I went back and studied and studied and studied. Since the chant was taken by Kalakaua, the Halenawa from Molokai, I went and tracked back to see what kahunas they were. And you'll notice that when Kalakaua sent the Halenawa to Molokai and they went to East Molokai, the chants that you see now in your chant text came from East Molokai, from what they call the kahunas of the knotted cord, which has the name Uli sometimes, or Tali, where they make knots. So when you watch them, how they weave and tie and make knots like they do with sails and mats, the same thought. It took me then to the kinds of materials used, whether it was coconut sennit, and by golly, that's what it took me back to Hawaiian cotton. You see it in the Marquesas, they use it to make fire. But also, cotton cord is the original knotted cord from India. So I went and studied the knotted cord. And that's what happened. It took me to all of these places. Finally, you'll see this. That's where the cotton is, the Hawaiian cotton. But you see these words, tali, tadi, tanti, sutari. Okay, this is suture in English. from Indian languages. Sanskrit goes to suture in English. So when you have tally in the English language, it's tali. Hawaiian is li. Li pu'u, the knotted cord, or tali, kali, or mali. Back here in Southeast Asia is prali. And you go to then South America, in South American coast, same words. Prali, pali, mali, tali, dali. All right? And to make this so you understand then where I'm coming from, here's Tibeto-Burman. Same lines. So it took me back to study this Hawaiian tool for navigation, which is related to this one in India. Is used all through the Mediterranean, all through Southeast Asia, up through, and became eventually all of the instruments we use in navigation today started there, with numbering along the cord of 9 knots. So consider 9 wa plus 7 equals 16. All right? When the Micronesians sit down and do their knotted leaves, they do 256. It is the highest number they can reach, which is the square of 16. 16 square. And when you study then all of these measurement numbers and the animals and the plants, then what is the Kumulipo saying? Well, time is interesting, evolution is fine, but where did we come from? Where did the Polynesians and all this system come from? Okay, this is what we call the navigation roof. The taubuki in Micronesia becomes a kaupuku in Hawaii. It's the same system of watching the stars go up and then come to the meridian and go down. When you see the people build these houses, they know what they're doing and how they're looking. So this is just to end this conversation on with you. I'll say this. I was taken to Fiji, and I was asked to sit in a certain place where they were going to give me something, so I accepted it in a certain place. What they gave me when I took it was the tambu. And tambu is what the chief wears around his neck. What they wanted to see is what I would do, but I didn't know, of course, when I went to accept it, that they were trying to see if I was genuine or not. In other words, they didn't tell me that there was a negative reason for having me sit there, where formerly the Queen of England had sat. They just wanted to know if I knew enough of my background to convince them I was worth honoring. I didn't know that at the time. Well, I was waiting to be told what to do, but no one said anything. So I just accepted the tabu, and I did nothing. I just held it. Now, if I had put it around my neck, they would know I didn't understand a thing, because that is sacred and can only be given to the highest chiefs. Well, can you imagine then when I found out later that that was the case? And I came back with it, I had to hide it in my brassiere. When I came through what would now be home security at the airport, I had to make look I had a big brown there. Yeah, hid it over there, they wouldn't touch me. But later on, that was stolen from the house. Does it tell you something? I'm not supposed to keep it, huh? But that obligates me. If they come to Hawaii, I'm supposed to have all those Tahitians at my house. Now, why is that so funny? When I thought about it all these years, I said, wow, I was just lucky. I didn't make a mistake. But this is what I told them in my speech when I accepted it. I said, in Hawaiian now, I say, oh, mahalo. Ke mahalo ni ia o kua whao no ke ia. Makana. Ai. Pono no hoi. Nau e wewe ana ia o ko. Pēnei. O oko no hoi. O kou moku au hau. Nā wai o kou. O, ki kumula au ano nui. Wā, kou au pune, o i hoi. O, ka vika le vuka, ki noa. Ano leila, ma Hawaii, i leila, kou aina hanau, ma leila, o hia le hua, ki noa. No leila, gavika le vuka, ma Fiji, visi levu, noho no nuno, no Hawaii awhau, o ka o hia le hua, no hoi, o ku, ka o hia le hua, nike me ku, ka o hia laka, o ia hoi, gavika le vuka. In other words, what I was telling them was, I come from the same place. Our God was from the same tree, the ohia lehua, which was levuka. In Tongan, it would be kafikalifuka. And if you keep going, then it becomes lihue in Hawaiian. And by that, I was trying to show that there's only really one people on the earth. Doesn't matter. Black, white, yellow, I don't care, mustard, green, purple. We have the same source. And that's the message in the Kumulipo all the way through. Even when it gets to the end, when they talk about Lono Ikapakahiki, and Kafiku comes, and you notice when the kahunas go down, and welcome him, and how they welcome him. Well, like I told her last night, I was asked when I did this book that I go down to Kealakekua with 800 dancers supplied by the city and county and the state government, plus all the people who would be putting the money to publishing the entire book, that I go down there with these 800 dancers and I oki captain cook from the Aumakua. And the person who was asking me was one of the most wealthy Hawaiian women in the country at the time. And she's saying it in front of the whole board of trustees of the Hawaii Cultural Research Foundation. And I refused. I said, no, I can't do that. Why not? Is there a question? I said, because I'm not from the kahuna. Our kahuna did that. Kapihe, Pu'o, Heva Heva, all of them who eventually were the ones responsible for breaking and taking away the Aikapu. They were the ones, not really skillful on your Kaumana. They had not. You think those queens had any power over the kahuna? No way. And it was Liho Liho who went to Heva Heva and Heva Heva. I said, okay, Heva. They're the ones. I said, why should I go now and do this? I have no authority to undo what they did. So, no money. That's why when you look at the Kumulipo from 1981, you see only these two that I showed you the pictures from. Because all the other pictures were given away, $90,000 worth. And the 14 chants missing were never published at all. None of the birds, nothing. Just two. And that's the way it is now. I haven't changed my position. Not ever. I've been asked many times to do this and that. That's from the Puna grandmother who made me climb a coconut tree. I told that story outside, how she made me climb the coconut tree when I was 5 years old. And the coconut tree is about 10 to 15 feet high. She said, I want you to go up there and go bring the coconuts down. Grandma, please. I'm going to fall down. No, you're not. You come here. Obedience training. She was cruel in situations like that. So you don't dare tell her no, right? Oh, Grandma, I cannot. Yes, you can. She's only 4 feet tall. I'm bigger than she is at 5, it seems. Oh, I cannot. She said, okay, you see over here? The scar, and over here. Now you put your feet over here and over here. Now you hug the tree with your knees, and now you go up. You feel you're going to fall down, you slide down. How are you going to do that? You get all ripped up, right? Try that. You got to have pants on. So I didn't have pants. I had to go up 10 feet, 10, 15 feet. So when I got up there, I had to put my body so that I could go inside a leaf, all slippery. I'm going to fall back. Now I have to come back out. So I said, well, Grandma, I can't reach over there. How many coconuts? 8 individuals to go drink, his uncles and aunties. I said, I cannot. You can. You grab the coconut, you see, and turn like that. Okay. Easy. Down. So I did that. I could climb 20 feet before I was 8. And when the aunties and uncles come, she sends me off. That's the veneration of the coconut tree, which comes in people who venerate the eel, ku, the butterfly, all those things. Just with the lono, where you come from. Same virus. I'm not lying. That's where we're going to go back. So we understand the virus. We have to learn about it so we can preserve our life and our children. I thank you for listening to this old lady talk.